I'm not just a mother. Like it was belittling to being a mother, a stay-at-home wife, or a caretaker, right? Now I do believe there are some guys that was, talking crazy and saying you don't contribute nothing, you don't got no power. I think that was a very small minority. I think the majority of men appreciated what their wives did, but the women who were working had a stigma about the women who were not working, and feminism might be directly responsible for that in my mind. Those working women who were supposed to be the pioneers of womanhood and taking over the world looked down on women who were still stay-at-home wives or moms, and they belittled it to the point that women started to feel as though my value is more than just this, to the point that they would be embarrassed to tell women that they were stay-at-home moms because it came with some form of shame. And that shame is a social construct that I don't think men enforce,
But
especially
see, I
outside
don't
of the
think black women did that. I think that was a white women's game.
yeah.
And because black women have always worked and contributed to the household since we came here. So I don't think that was ever an issue. That's why they separated themselves and became what they termed womanism as opposed to feminism. That was the way they separated themselves as well, because their thing was more along the lines of um, that the intersectionality between being a woman and being black. So they were dealing with a whole different set of issues that they felt left out of the feminist movement, because those issues really focused on the white woman's cause and not necessarily theirs. So our fight was a little different.
Do you think that black feminist women identify with being women first or being black?
Hmm.
And Shan, can you answer that too?
Well, see, I don't know, because historically, that's what we were talking about. The feminism and the fight for equal justice, right, for blacks, were always intertwined with each other, because both of those were a form of oppression, right? So rape, yeah. So I don't know if you can actually separate those two.
So if they say um, black men can vote, but no women can vote, would that be as offensive as? I'm trying to think of an example that would, because
Because when they look at us, I think they see both of those things at the same time. Like when they look at you guys, they'll see a black, right? A black man, right? When they look at us, they see us as a black woman. So I don't think you can really separate those two, because for us, both of those things are intertwined in terms of, access to equal rights, right? Like when this whole fight for you know um equality and rights, civil rights, and all of that, those things have always been intertwined for black women.
hmm. Shan, what you think? Do feminists, specifically feminists, view themselves as as women first or black first?
I don't know that I consider myself a feminist to be able to answer that question. So I don't know
I
what the
mean, speculate.
are you. I don't know. Like I can't. You can ask me now if in my situation do I think but it's hard for me to say because I'm not a feminist.
Okay.
Or ask the question. I mean, I don't know.
What do y'all think feminists mean?
Um,
I think that's a
almost
better
the
question.
idea. I would say feminism or the feminist idea is that I should be able to do what you want to do, what you do. I should be able to do what a man do, and it be treated the same. Like I should be able to do the same job If I want to work a hard physical job, if I want to, go out and make money, I want to be respected and looked at as the same as when a man does it. I think that's the
Okay.
overall point. Like, I want to have a say too. I want to make decisions too. I want to contribute and I want to do these things too. I think that's the overall idea of, what feminism is. But the thing is like, even when you talk about womanism versus feminism, eventually you separate to some degree that it was a white woman that was able to sit at home, choose to vote or not, and continue to get these benefits. So obviously you start seeing other races of women, but especially black women, being like, well, that's a woman. I'm a woman. I should be able to have the same options and do the same thing that I should be able to stay home just like that white woman should be able to stay home. And I should be able to work just like that other woman did. But I agree with the idea that Marcus was bringing up, as far as we think that women have way more influence than they even realize. That you have to understand that even most men are taught by their mothers or their grandmothers or some woman to show a certain level of care and respect and protection towards women. Like, we're taught that. No matter how y'all treat us, no matter what y'all say to us, we're taught that baseline in more cases than not. Of course, there's exceptions to the rule. But I think that oftentimes, like, even when you want to change the dynamic of what's happening in the day-to-day now in relationships and dating, it's going to be hard because you're asking two people that got power to relinquish power. And depending on how you view power, most people will corrupt it. And what has happened is that some women that have gained power have understood the greatness of power and they wield it. Just like the men understand the greatness of power, and you yield it a certain type of way, which is causing most of our issues, is that we have an issue with how these people are wielding power. But when the roles is reversed, when women are wielding power, they're operating in the same way. We don't know if they're operating in the same way because they see men do it, or that's just a natural weight of when it comes when you got power and authority.
They say absolute power corrupts absolute.
Absolutely. Okay, so yes, I agree with that. I want to add, like, so when I think of feminist, the definition of feminist, I'm a feminist. I think most men are feminists by the definition.
Exactly.
Somebody that believes um on the basis of equality for sexes, who supports women being treated fairly, having rights, and in that form. But in its practical use, it's a political ideology, and it's a socio-political movement, and those ideologies, it within aiming to establish and reframe the structure of society, it it's impractical as it is today, because it it separates the natural attraction of men and women, and it pits them against each other for the most part. If you read some of the writings of like bell hooks, because it identifies the patriarchy, which is an issue. I'm not saying patriarchy not an issue, but it identifies relationships with men and women that are dependent on power dynamics in order for them to function correctly, and flips them upside down in ways that women do not tend to like, because it's against the nature of the way attraction works and the way our biology is set up. So that's why I was asking a question about, would you be okay with you being rich and just taking care of a man, and would most women be okay with that? Because even though we can argue that it's a social or it's a social construct that women would feel that way, there's still the biology behind it at the base of attraction. So there are things that are social constructs that we just go along with, and we can be clear, like, all right, this is socially constructed. Like, like I don't want to say that word, but you know what I'm saying? It's the T community. Like, we all have an understanding of it and see it as a social construct that we have to understand it. But the biology of people doesn't change and alter. And when I'm speaking to the biology, I mean the way in which the relationships men and women have that exist that function correctly, that removes the way that works and flips it on his head, and it does not work in the opposite direction, which is why most women want larger men than them. They seek to find a man that would technically be superior to them, because that's how we're biologically wired. And for the current socio-economic political ideology of feminism to work, it would have to remove that portion of biology for us to actually see each other as equal, and there be no distinction between men and women.